Hey, how's it going? This is Kevin Robert. Welcome back to the Sales Talk with Contractors podcast. Just wanted to do a quick episode more targeted towards smaller contractors or guys that typically just give out estimates and don't really try to one call close their appointments. This is really going to be targeted towards you guys. And what I'm going to be going over here is 8 tips to help beginners start one call closing your estimate appointment. So let's go ahead and jump into the episode, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks.
Pocket.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Kevin Robert. I just wanted to do a quick solo podcast here, kind of as the first episode. I'm going to be having a bunch of guests on starting at the beginning of the year. I actually have a number of people already lined up that I think you're really going to like, but just kind of wanted to get an episode out, and I'll just make it a pretty quick solo podcast here. And what I wanted to talk about is a few tips for one call closing deals. So this isn't really going to be for the guys that already have like an established sales team, because the stuff that I'm going to go over here is just some really, really basic tips. But I've been seeing a lot of contractors, usually smaller guys that, have a small team, don't really have a sales background or sales reps or anything like that yet. And I've been seeing guys posting on social media and stuff. And it seems like a lot of people are having trouble getting one call closed on the first meeting. Um, or they just don't even think it's possible, which is pretty weird because all the biggest companies in the United States that sell home improvement all close deals on the first meeting. So just wanted to jump in here and go over a few tips for you guys. So the first tip I have is whenever we have a meeting booked, an estimate appointment booked, we always send out a bunch of stuff before we even show up at the house. Okay. And this is something that you could do whether you have sales experience or not, and it helps a lot with the deal. I call it the pre-appointment packet. Basically, whenever we get a new estimate appointment booked, excuse me, we'll send out sometimes if it's a physical packet, if it's like a really big job and we have some time to go ahead and drop that off before we show up at the house. But a lot of times it's just over like email or text or whatever. And basically, what the pre-appointment packet is we're just warming people up and kind of getting them pre-sold before we even show up at the house. Okay, so what we'll send in these emails or text messages, or if it's like a physical packet that we drop off, we're basically just sending like testimonials. We're sending case studies. If it's people that are like in their same neighborhood, close to the house that they recognize, that works best. Sending pictures of jobs we've done, references, stuff like that. The goal is to kind of to get them warmed up and kind of pre-sold on the company and get all the stuff out of the way up front, so they're not like asking at the end like, oh, well, can you send me references, can you show me houses that you guys have done in the area, stuff like that. We kind of already want to have them sold before we even show up at the house. Okay. To get deeper into it, there's like all kinds of like false assumptions that people have about contractors. And, some of those are like all contractors do the same work. So obviously the lowest price is the best option to go with. That would be a false assumption. Another false assumption that people have oftentimes is I always got to get 3 estimates before I make a decision. These are like belief systems implanted in people either through like media like Angie's List or Better Business Bureau. They tell you got to get 3 estimates every time, right? Don't make a decision until you get 3 estimates. There's a lot of like little false beliefs that homeowners have about contractors like that, and I could actually do a whole separate video on that, because closing the deal pretty much all comes down to just breaking and rebuilding those false belief patterns. But if you could write some of those things down, like the common objections and stuff, and craft like a story that kind of like handles that objection ahead of time, that works really good, right? So like there might be a homeowner that you did work with where they give you a testimonial about, I had 4 other contractors out, and although Kevin's company was a little bit higher than the rest, I went with them because I seen that they have all these good qualities about their company, and they have, whatever it is, whatever they chose you, right? Those are little like testimonials and stuff that you could send in your pre-appointment packet that are going to handle a lot of those false assumptions and those objections before they even come up when you get there. Okay. And a lot of times you could have the whole deal sold, so you don't even have to, do much of a presentation, right? You send out your stuff in your pre-appointment packet. They're pretty much pre-sold before you even get there, and then you could just start, you could jump into a little presentation, or you can start talking price if you're a guy that doesn't really like to sell on the spot, or whatever, right? The pre-appointment packet also kind of breaks down that brick wall a lot of homeowners have, because people don't trust contractors, right? So a lot of times when you show up at their house, they're real like standoffish. Maybe they have like their arms crossed and stuff, right? And it kind of takes a while of, a little bit of rapport building, like 30 minutes or 45 minutes of actually talking to the people until they get, warmed up to you and they lower their guard. And at that point, they're actually hearing what you're saying and they're listening to you as an expert and believing you, right? When they have up that brick wall when you first enter the house, they don't believe shit you say. You're just another sleazy salesman or, hack contractor, right? So the pre-appointment packet could really break down that barrier ahead of time. So right from the start, as soon as they answer the front door and you get in the house, they already see you as an expert and they already believe the stuff you say. So you're, way ahead of schedule as far as conducting that meeting. All right. So pre-appointment packet, if you could send that out either through email, text message, whatever, or like an actual packet that you could drop off, that works really, really well. Moving on to the next thing here, number 2, you always want to set the stage if you're going to attempt to close a deal on the spot. Okay. And so setting the stage is letting them know that you're going to be giving them a presentation and asking for the order, right? That way, they have that in their mind, because if you don't set the stage, what a lot of people are thinking is that you're going to do what just every other contractor does. You're going to go into their house, you're going to take measurements. Maybe you're just going to throw out a price. It's going to probably be like 50,000, or you're going to go take measurements and then you're going to go home and email them a quote later, right? That's what most contractors do. And so setting the stage is letting them know that, like, hey, this appointment's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit different. And there's 2 points where you set the stage. The first one is before you even get out to the meeting, right? The estimate appointment. So you want to let them know what's going to go down. Hey, we're going to come out, take a few measurements. Put aside 45 minutes or so, because I'm gonna, come out, take a few measurements, tell you a little bit about our company, kind of show you the products that we have to offer and kind of how we do things. It's a little bit different than a lot of the contractors you probably had out, and then we'll go ahead and give you a price right there on the spot if that works, right? Something like that. And then so you set the stage before you go out to the appointment, and then you set the stage during the appointment. Um, Usually right after you're doing the inspection and taking measurements. So you knock on the door, right? They answer. You have some small talk, right? Warm up with them, build rapport, maybe like 5-10 minutes, and then you're going to go into an inspection, right? You're going to look at whatever the project is. You're going to build some urgency around it, and then you're going to obviously take your measurements and everything. And then so after you take your measurements, it's just going to be a matter of letting them know what's going to happen next. So, hey, Mr. Homeowner, looks like I got everything I need, got all the measurements I need. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, head out to my car, probably 15-20 minutes or so. I'm going to crunch some numbers, put a price together for you. And then what I'm going to do is come back in. We're going to go ahead and sit at the kitchen table. So if you're able to clear that off a little bit for us, come back in, show you kind of the product that we use, tell you a little bit about our company, and then I will give you a price that is good for a full year. Obviously, would love to earn your business today, but either way, that price that I'm going to give you today is going to be good for a full year. Sound good? Perfect. You go out, do your thing. Now they're expecting you, they know what's going to happen. You're going to come back in, sit at the table, give a presentation, right? Which leads us into number 3. The next point here is you want to get to the kitchen table. Okay. there's a bunch of guys that I've talked to that are like haven't that have had trouble like closing meetings or actually like getting into a pitch on the spot because they go there and they like especially if it's exterior work, right? They go to the house, they're like walking around the house, and then maybe they're like standing in the garage talking to the homeowner. And at that point, it just seems kind of rushed. Like the homeowner's thinking like, oh, okay, you got everything, so you're just going to take off, right? You can't get into a presentation while you're just standing there. It has to be an area where the homeowners know, business happens, right? Business happens at the kitchen table, and you have to get to that area so people are relaxed, you're sitting down, and it gives the vibe that you're going to be there for a little while. Okay? Don't want to sit on the couch. Kitchen table is where business happens. That's where you give your pitch and you negotiate. So make sure you always get to the kitchen table. Okay. Um, Number four is you want to have a pitch book. So a pitch book is just your presentation. It's usually like a slide presentation. A lot of people do it on an iPad these days. I prefer a physical book. People actually retain information better if it's a physical thing that they're looking at as opposed to a screen. So we still use an old school 3-ring binder with our pitch book in there. And your pitch book is basically all of your talking points, right? And it's something that you sit down, you thumb through with the homeowner, you or a sales rep, and it allows you or your sales rep to give a perfect presentation every single time without even having to think about it, right? You you literally have your points right there. You sit there, flip through it with the homeowner, and you don't have to remember what to say or anything. You don't have to come up with stuff on the spot. You're not saying something different every single time. When you have a pitch book, if your pitch book's good, it allows you to deliver a good presentation every time, right? A pitch book is going to sell the homeowner on a few different things. It's going to sell them on your company, your product, and your process. It's going to sell them off of every other company in an elegant way that doesn't sound like you're talking bad about the competition, and narrow everything down to your company. It's going to sell them off of every other product and onto your product, off of every other process onto your process. And a good pitch book narrows everything down. So you're like the only option. And they've agreed to that throughout the presentation. So if they were to say anything else at all, they're contradicting themselves and they sound dumb. Um, and it basically boxes them in. Okay. And when I say boxes them in, it sounds a little bit harsh, right? Um, but if you're talking to a qualified prospect, which you should only be, right? Someone that has a want, need, desire, ability, and authority to get the project done, there's no shame in, you know, giving a good presentation and boxing people in, right? And even pushing a little bit to get the deal done. Because if they're qualified, they're going to get work done either with you or someone else. Statistically, people are more likely to have a bad experience with a contractor than a good one these days. So if you're an honest, ethical contractor and know you're going to give them a great experience, then it's your ethical duty to do what you have to do to get that job closed. It's more unethical to not give a presentation and try to close them if you're a good contractor than it is to to do it, right? So that's that. You got to have a pitch book. Pitch book just lets you give a presentation without having to think about it, and it allows you to duplicate a perfect process over and over again because you can give a sales rep a pitch book. All of the biggest companies have a pitch book, so you should have one too. Okay. And then let's get into the controversial one here. You want to have a today only price, okay, or like a way to build extreme urgency. Okay, when you hear today only price, everyone hates it. They say, oh, that's way too pushy, that's sleazy, it's bullshit, whatever. You can do a today only price as long as you have a good story behind why the price is good for today only. And it has to be a true story, right? It can't be bullshit because people will, know it right away, right? So you could do a today only price as long as you have a good reason behind it. So you have to have like a story behind it. You have to tell them a story on why the price is good for today only, and it has to make logical sense. Otherwise, their bullshit detector goes off, and then you have to actually stick to it. Otherwise, you're just a liar, right? I can't tell you how many times people, I've given my today only price. My story's good and everything, but there's still always people that just don't believe it, right? And then they call me back like the next day and they want the same price. and I tell them no, right? And maybe they get a little pissed off at you, but it's like, hey, I know you're a little bit mad, but if I told you yes today, then you're dealing with a company that's lying to you. And so, we're talking about a $50,000 kitchen remodel here, which could, if this thing goes wrong, it could put you in financial ruin, right? Do you want a company that tells the truth and sticks to their word? Or do you want to hire a company for this project that's already lying to you up front before we even started the project, right? So, you know, I keep my word. Can't give you this today. Only the price that we went over yesterday. However, I am willing to negotiate a different deal with you, and I'll go ahead and have my rep come back out to your house. And although we can't give you that price, I guarantee you we'll find something that will work for you. Um, and we just go from there. So, however you want to word it, right? But a today only price does work if you do it properly. You just have to come up with a story on why it's legit. Okay. And I'm not getting too much into all these points because I wanted to make this like pretty short, like 30 minutes, but I could expand on all this stuff in other videos and we can go over like different stories and stuff like that. Or you guys could just reach out to me on Facebook or, email or whatever if you want to talk about it more. Okay. And then so the next point here, and we got like two more. I just kind of like wrote down a bunch of points like 5 minutes before I made this video, so this is kind of off the cuff here. But when you're putting together your price, you want to leave room to negotiate financing terms and price drops. And if you don't have financing, you got to get financing. Okay, that's like crucial. Okay, you're going to close so much more deals with financing than without it. And it's so easy to get hooked up with a third party company that will finance your jobs and pay you up front and all this stuff. So make sure you get financing it if you don't already. You're going to close a shitload more deals with that. Okay. If you need any references on that, just let me know. I can give you a few companies that we use. But you want to leave room for financing and price drops. Don't let your ego get in the way when it comes to price drops. There's nothing wrong with dropping your price. The thing is, when you do a price drop, when you put your initial quote together, you want to add padding to the price, expecting to do a price drop. Okay, so when you do a price drop, it doesn't come out of your profit. You added that on. So it's, it's kind of you can call it a fake price drop, right? Or whatever. I don't really think anything's wrong with that, but that's how you want to do it so it doesn't come out of your profit. Okay. And if you just close a deal right away and you don't have to do a price drop to get it, then you can make a choice. You could leave that padding in the job because, stuff always comes up in jobs. Maybe you need more money, right? Maybe there's an issue, or you could just give them a discount anyways at the end, just to kind of like seal that deal so they don't cancel and just, in good faith. Right. But your price drop should always come out of extra padding that you have in the job, doesn't come out of your profit. And when you do a price drop, you always want to get something for it, right? It's kind of like sales 101 stuff, right? So when you do a price drop, you want to, get either, get them on like a neighborhood marketing program. Like, hey, we'll give you the price. The only thing, is if we give you this, I want you to agree to let us put a job sign in the front yard for a week, get a testimonial and before and after pictures. We're probably also going to mail these before and after pictures out to your neighbors. Or it could be something like, what we do is we put people on this like cool little program we have where they, for a certain period of time, they'll be like on a reference list of ours to where when we're in-house closing a deal, sometimes if people want references, I'll just pick up the phone, put it on speaker, and I'll randomly call one of our past customers and I'll slide the phone over the table to them right there. So you wanted a reference? Here, talk to this person, right? So it's not like we're going to send them it later and we're leaving the house. It's like, hey, you're talking to the person right now, okay? And then that person, tells them good stuff about us, obviously, and that closes the deal the majority of the time. And so, obviously you don't want to just call random people. That's kind of weird, right? You're kind of bugging them. So like a program that we have that we'll put people on in exchange for us giving them a price drop is they have to be on our reference call list for a certain amount of time, which means every now and then they're going to get a random call at like 7 o'clock at night. with them on speaker, and we're at the table with the homeowner, and they got to tell the homeowner good stuff about us. Okay. And that might sound a little bit weird, but you'll be extremely surprised what people will agree to if it means getting a better price on their job, especially when you go through your pitch book, a good presentation, they love you, they really want to go with you. If it's just a little bit lower, they'd feel more comfortable, or a little bit better finance terms, they'd feel more comfortable. They'll agree to like some kind of, marketing program like that, right away. Okay. So that's that. Don't let your false beliefs get in your way. That's important. Everyone, there's a lot of contractors that just have like a bad like belief system about sales in general. They think, oh, people, homeowners are just gonna get pissed off if you try to sell them. If I try to get to the kitchen table, they're just gonna get pissed off. No one wants to be sold to, right? Oh, if I try to give them a today price, they're gonna get, pissed off and leave me bad reviews. Like all that stuff is in your head. Okay. If you do it wrong, they probably will get pissed off. But if you do stuff the right way, it's like very, very rare. Okay. I've been doing this for the last 10 years. I've been a top sales rep at some of the biggest home improvement companies in the country. I've ran thousands of sales appointments by this point. It almost never happens. Okay. All the stuff that you have in your head about people getting mad and stuff about you trying to sell to them, it almost never happens. Like 1 in 100. So it's successful astronomically more than it's not. Okay. And so you just got to do it. You got to get that stuff out of your head about sales being bad and about you thinking like how people are going to react when you really don't, right? Um, and then the last point here is kind of going into the same thing, but price doesn't matter as much as you think it does. That's kind of like another like false belief you have in your head. So like a lot of contractors think like, oh, I got to be, if the homeowner has 4 other quotes that are like half my price, I got to be a little bit lower, right? I got to be like on par with them, or just not even bid the job because I'm not going to get it, right? Price does not matter as much as you think. Okay. Um, we're almost over here at Powerhouse Renovations, my company, we're almost always the highest price or close to it. And I've been in that same position at pretty much every company I've worked at as a sales rep as well. And we have zero issues closing deals. Okay. We close deals over companies that are half our price or even less, like all the time. Okay. The thing is, you got to educate them, right? You got to give a presentation, because if you go into a house and you don't give a presentation and you give a high price, well, no other contractors educated them on the process either. So if all the homeowner knows is price, that's their only deciding factor, then that's what they're going to decide with, right? If all they know is price, then that's what they're going to go with on when they're making their decision, right? They're only going to look at the prices. But if they have all this other stuff like about your company and how a lot of, all the shady shit a lot of other companies do, and why that doesn't happen with you guys, and why your product's different, and why your installation process is different than a lot of other contractors, and all the common, shit that contractors do that's wrong, then all of a sudden it's not as much about price anymore, right? They still care about the price, but they want to get a fair price with a good company that's offering the stuff you're offering, right? It goes from only being about price when they're not educated, to being, price is a little bit important, but it's not the most important thing. They also got to have all this other stuff, along with the company that's going to do the work. Okay. So what it really comes down to is people just want to feel like they're getting the best deal. Okay. It's not necessarily about the lowest price. They want to feel like they're getting the best deal. Okay. Like, I'm getting the most bang for my buck. This is a fair deal. This is what we're going to go with, right? Even if it's not the lowest. Um, so that's that. Those are kind of some tips there, some pointers on one call closing. Again, I can go into, I'll probably do a few other like solo podcasts or whatever. Most of the stuff on this channel is going to be with guests. I don't like just rambling on like this, but I'll probably go into some other videos, or you might hear some stuff about it when I have like guests on, and we're talking back and forth and stuff like that. But that's about it for today. Just wanted to do this quick solo podcast. If you have any questions, I'll put like my contact info, below or whatever this is at, so you can just reach out to me. And other than that, I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks.